Hey guys, Kakarot197 again. This time with a review of the high-grade Iron-Blooded Orphans Gremory, provided to me by my favorite online hobby store, Hobbylink Japan. Links to buy your own demon for Halloween down below. And to me, this definitely looks like one of the more demonic Iron-Blooded Orphans Gundams. Whether it's the nails, the red accents, the cloak, or a combination of all of them and more, this thing definitely looks impressive, and in terms of engineering, it's pretty impressive too. This tiny seam line on the knee was all I could find, and there's also some nice color separation going on. For the stickers then, we get the usual eye stickers, 4 white ones for the shoulders, 4 gray ones with silver panel lines for the insides of the shoulders, then we get some more of those for the wingtips and the feet, and then finally just gray ones for the arms. And with that, our Gremory is mostly color accurate. Just grab some black for the many grooves on this kit, gray for the open hands, and lightish red for the closed hands. So straight out of the box, this is a pretty damn badass looking thing that totally got me into the Halloween mood. But now let's have a closer look at the accessories that it comes with, and in particular, those hands that we just talked about. When you look at the two sets of hands separately, you might not really notice anything too wrong, but when we put them side to side, you will see that the closed hands are just the generic Iron-Blooded Orphans hands, which aren't actually what the Gremory should have. This thing has some pretty damn impressive nails, as evidenced with the open hands, so I think it definitely would have been nice if they also gave customized closed holding hands with the Gremory. Fortunately, we do have the battle anchor to kinda distract you from that, but this is also something that has some positives and some negatives. On the positive side, if you buy 2 Gremories, you can actually make a completely unbroken battle anchor because both sides use the same connections, and then you just hook them up with 2 of these. Or, if you really want to, you can make a completely broken battle anchor. I guess at that point it just becomes a mace or like a spear, doesn't it? Anyways, on the negative side then, there are some pretty nasty seam lines running all across this thing. Well, running all across the business end of this thing. We got one there, we got one there, and that of course also extends to right there. Also, the silver that this thing is molded in isn't the best, so you might want to consider painting the entire thing. And then finally, when we put it into the hands, it's unfortunately not the most secure thing in the world, which is another good reason that this thing really should have come with custom holding hands. And yet, despite everything I just said, I cannot deny how badass this thing looks. So with all of those accessories out of the way, let's have a look at the articulation of this thing, and of course also the gimmicks that it comes with. Because one of the big features of this model kit is that cloak that you can remove. It is on a double hinge joint, so you can move it all the way back like that. And then to give the head the full movement, it even has this little hatch that folds down to give the head the full range of movement. Goes forwards and backwards nicely, will of course rotate around all the way, and also has some forwards and backwards movement on that double ball joint. Then the shoulders are your typical Iron-Blooded Orphans fare. They are very easy to disconnect, which makes it easy to show you the joints. There's a hinge joint and ball joint combo that allows for upwards movement. And combined with the upwards movement of the arm, that gives you about that much. Of course, if you don't dislodge it in the process, then you get some forwards and backwards movement on that ball joint, of course, again, until it pops out. There's this little hatch on the side that goes up and down, and then the shoulder armor itself will, of course, also go up and down. Then the arms will rotate around all the way, bent at the elbow on one joint for a little over 90 degrees. We've got these very interesting shield or armor things that will fold forwards and go over the hands. So you can hide the fact that these aren't actually the hands that the Gremory should come with. And then the hands themselves are, of course, on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. Then on the back, we get these very nice looking wing things, although the articulation could have been a bit better. They'll go up and down on just a peg, and then they'll flap in and out. Then when we move on to the waist, we have the typical Iron-Blooded Orphan stuff. We have a ball joint down there and a little hinge joint up there. So it does move forwards again until that ball joint decides to give up. So let's try that again. Forwards about that far, backwards about that far, and then of course the side-to-side movement and rotation is all taken care of by that ball joint. And the other thing, of course, that ball joint and hinge combo gives us is the typical, Iron-Blooded Orphans fragile feeling. But moving on to the skirt armor, which is very interesting, although not necessarily in a good way. You see, the front skirts are connected to the side skirts, and they are on ball joints, but they only go up about that far, which would allow the legs to move forwards that far, until of course those disconnect. So what you're supposed to do for forwards movement is move those side skirts out of the way all the way like that, which will then allow the legs the full forwards movement like so. Backwards movement then is no problem whatsoever. Even though it does have a quite big back skirt, it doesn't get in the way whatsoever. Then we've also got some forwards and backwards movement, which also exposes the hole for an action base. The sideways movement then is also very nice, all the way up like that. The legs will then rotate around, bend at the knees on 2 joints. And then finally we have the feet. They're on a ball joint for some nice forwards, backwards, rotation, and side-to-side movement, although that side-to-side movement is of course also helped with that extra joint, which allows you to go a bit crazy. Then this thing will also go up and down, and then finally we of course have our toe joint. So overall, the Gremory is your typical Iron-Blooded Orphans kit. It is on the fragile side, and in some places the articulation could have been that little bit better, but you can definitely make some really badass poses with this thing. You sometimes just have to fight a little bit with those ball joints. So as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And well, it's one of those cases where the model kit does have some issues, but I can't help but love it because of how awesome it looks. At 1,800 yen, it is one of the more expensive Iron-Blooded Orphans kits out there, but I would still totally recommend it. Whether you're an Iron-Blooded Orphans fan, or you're looking for a Gundam that has a quite unique flair about it, this is definitely one of a kind with that cloak mechanic. So then for some size comparisons, here it is next to some other Iron-Blooded Gundams, the Barbs and the Gushin Rebake. As you can see, the Gremory is without a doubt an impressive looking machine, but the Gushin, which costs only 1,200 yen, does put its value into perspective. Then here it is next to the Grace Ritter and the Reagan Lace, and then finally here it is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. Again, the Gremory is a pretty impressive machine. And that has been all for this review of the Gremory. Again, if you want to get one for yourself, links down below. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.